Well, here we are on our Sunday morning show, the Joe and Joe Weather Show, Coffee with Cioffi and Rayo. Usually, I'm Sunday mornings. I'm always kind of draggy, even by the time we get to this hour. But you know what, Joe? I got up this morning early and I had a nice big cup of coffee. I did my weather stuff this morning for my websites and for Patreon, and it was 9:15. I went out and did a 5 mile walk since there's no rain, and I just got back 15 minutes ago, and I'm feeling
And you're working
alive,
out.
and the brain synapses are all working good. My God, by the way, I must mention your hair looks fabulous.
Who, my hair?
Yeah, did you
It's
wash
funny.
it?
I took a shower last night.
Well,
I
that
was
that's
out
good to know.
I was out in the fields yesterday. You don't even want to know. I was doing all sorts of stuff. Got aggravated because I pulled out my tractor mower and the battery was dead, and I was trying to charge it up and didn't quite make it. And and last night when I took my shower, I didn't bother last night when I washed my hair to blow it. I
Hmm.
just said I'm just going to let it dry naturally, and this is the direct result of
Oh
that.
no! I never blow dry. I haven't used a blow dryer in many years. I just let it dry out. Now air dry. It looks very good. It
Thank you,
really does.
thank you,
It's
thank you
nice.
very much. And
So,
we actually are mentioning. I mentioned it on a forecast I posted on my Facebook page last night, and
hmm
I see you have on the title page here before we got started your snow forecast, and I had it in the forecast for tomorrow for sections of the Hudson Valley. I can't believe it, Joe. We're almost to the month of May, and we're still mentioning that four-letter word. Couldn't mention it much during the regular winter, but here we
right.
are now heading for the middle of spring, and we still have it.
Well, this is what happens when you get the ideal weather pattern in the wrong time of year, pretty much.
Right.
And of course, the same pattern has a slightly would have slightly different implications at different times of the year. This time of year, as you know, especially in the Northeast and down into the northern part, at least the northern part of the Mid-Atlantic states, it sets up for an onshore flow. It sets up for miserable weather. It sets up for a cold rain if and when it gets here. Um, I looked at I kind of expected it to be raining everywhere, at least by this time. I just got back, as I said, from my long walk, and I did finally. I know now I'm 60 miles, 55, 60 miles east northeast of New York City. So I would have thought that I would have seen more rain at this point than what I have. But again, I took advantage at least.
Right. Well, you know, it is what it is. We're going to have another dreary day today. We're going to have another dreary day tomorrow. More dreariness for probably later Wednesday, Thursday, maybe even Friday as well. At least we can hang our hat on Tuesday because Tuesday looks like the day for nice weather. I'll pay you Tuesday for
For
some
a hamburger
sunshine.
today.
For some sunshine today. Actually, I'll pay you today and tomorrow for some sunshine on Tuesday.
I kind of thought there were two things. Tuesday, I think it's going to be. I don't. By yesterday here by me, it was cloud free until the middle of the afternoon, and yet when you looked at the satellite yesterday, if you were in northern New Jersey, particularly if you were in northwest New Jersey, northeastern Pennsylvania, you spent the day in clouds, in a lot of cloud cover. There was
Right.
some low clouds, I think, that formed overnight and never really got out of the way, and then some high clouds came overhead. So I guess geography made a big difference yesterday in terms of whether you had a decent day or not. I'm just a little bit concerned about Tuesday, if only for the fact that you've got this first weather system pulling out. The next one is coming for Wednesday night and Thursday. There's not this really strong push of dry air in between. And I noticed that a couple of the models showing a very weak disturbance coming down from the Great Lakes and just sort of dying out going into the Mid Atlantic states. I don't know. I was thinking maybe there might be some clouds in the mix. The other thing I want to bring up too, Wednesday night into Thursday, that's a pretty decent cold front with a low going to the lakes like that and a really strong southerly flow. There's probably going to be a fairly strong arm of heavy downpours and maybe even a thunderstorm or two as that weather front kind of whips around.
Right.
And it might take a while for that whole system to get out of the way. So we may have to wait until perhaps Saturday before we have the first halfway decent day from start to finish.
Now, I'm looking at the latest Foos, the NAM Foos, which takes us out to Tuesday night, and I got to tell you that in terms of relative humidity, that we start out on Tuesday with a lot of low-level moisture still in place. The R1 level is at 88%, but then by 12 hours later, by Tuesday evening, the R1 is down to 47%. I
All
mean,
right,
that
so maybe we will have, maybe some clouds early that give way to, that will go to no worse than a mix of sun and clouds.
right. But
Maybe that's what it'll be.
if you look at this by the end of Tuesday, 47% at the low end of the spectrum for the low level moisture. You've got a subsidence or a vertical motion of minus 1.9, and Joe, the boundary level winds. Now you rarely ever see this. Boundary level winds on Tuesday evening or Wednesday at 0Z, zero, zero,
Zero,
zero,
zero,
zero.
zero.
It's a
Nice.
it's a Blutarski.
Yeah.
Mr.
And
Blutarski,
Plutarski, 0,
0.0.
0, 0. Oh, good Lord. Hold on a second. Can
I
you
will,
hear?
say, and I will say one other thing is the fact that the thickness by late Tuesday is all the way down to like 40 or 42, and yet the boundary level temperature at the T1 is plus 14.
Yeah, we're at the time of year now where the two where those two things can get very much out of sync.
Yeah,
With the bottom of the atmosphere always wind up being warmer. Take a look at this. I got the 11 o'clock obs all plotted out, uh, and talk about raw. I mean, temperatures are in the upper 40s to around 50 near the coast, and
right,
that runs down into the Washington D.C. Baltimore area. Northeast winds everywhere you look. But you go up to central and northern Pennsylvania. You've got places right now across some of the northern Pennsylvania counties that are in the upper 30s. The ob at Monticello right now is 38. I mean, that's just ridiculous. 48 at Poughkeepsie, which up, east of the Catskills, you get that warmer air kind of gets in the lower elevations there. But you're mostly in the mid and upper 40s. You've got a lot of cold spots as you go up to the north that are in the upper 30s and lower 40s. I mean, this is just, I guess the best way I can describe this is just being an absolutely disgusting kind of day. It
right,
just is.
right.
It's just so raw. And the radar at the moment, I'll give it a refresh and we'll take a look. You're get what looks to be happening is that this thing is you look at the orientation of the rain going northeast southwest from Indiana and Kentucky into upstate New York. It looks like most of the heavy rain, the heavier, steadier rain, is going well north and west of the coast, at least for now. And this was something that models did not telegraph very well. So there's not a whole lot of rain going on along the coast from southern New England down through New Jersey into Delaware and into southeast PA. We may just have to wait for this whole thing to pivot around to get the bulk of that rain eastward. Now you're on the southern edge of that arm of rain that's moving up the Hudson Valley, but it's
Right.
all north and west. I did not anticipate the rain shield to be this far inland.
No, I did not either. In fact, I said that we would probably have some showers early today and then more of a steadier bout later, and that may still happen. And I've also thrown in, just for the benefit of the folks over at SPC, the Storm Prediction Center, putting us in a chance for some general thunderstorm activity. So I mentioned the rumble or two of thunder for later on in the day today.
Uh, Looking at what's going on nationwide, just pointing out here that we don't have a whole lot of weather going on overall. We do have um, winter weather advisories up for parts of northeastern New York, eastern Vermont, and northernmost New Hampshire and western Maine, except down near the coast. That's where I think you're going to see some areas that are going to wind up with a few inches. And again, most of that is now elevation driven. You have some wind advisories in parts of the southeast in Georgia and northern Alabama. That's in the wake of yesterday's severe weather, and with this low that's going out off the New Jersey coast, the cold fronts whipped down by, so a little bit on the breezy side there. And in the Southwest, in Southern California, Southern Nevada, we've got excessive heat watches up. And I bring this up only because of the fact that uh, this is one of the things, at least with everything that's going on with the lockdowns nationwide, but particularly here in coastal areas, you got to wonder how we're going to handle things if we get into some sort of heat wave situation and the beaches are still closed. It's going to get awfully tough. We don't have that particular problem yet, but we've seen these hot temperatures that are showing up now. Granted, it's well inland in California. It's not down near the coast, although they are seeing warmer temperatures there. But remember, we are kind of moving along through the spring, and before you know it, folks, it will be summertime around here. Otherwise, there really isn't a whole lot happening with respect to severe weather. Minimal risk today in southeastern Florida, where we have a marginal risk being indicated. And Joe, as you pointed out, the SPC has us in an area of general thunderstorm activity, which I don't think it's impossible. Tomorrow, the marginal risk area is in a small area in West Texas. On Tuesday, we have an expanded area of slight risk running up the southern plains and into the middle Mississippi Valley from as far south as San Antonio, or Austin, probably a better pick there in San Antonio, as far south as Austin in Texas to as far north as Chicago. So it's a fairly sizable area of severe weather being indicated. And in the day 4 to 8 time frame, at least for now, for day 4, which is Wednesday into Thursday, so this would be for Wednesday night into Thursday, they're saying predictability too low. And for day 5, they're also saying predictability too low. I would say, Joe, you might want to look for the possibility of SPC doing something severe weather-wise when we get to that Wednesday night, Thursday time frame.
Well, the day 3 today, yesterday translated into day 4, and yesterday they did have in the day 4, they were confident enough to issue or to suggest severe weather, which is apparently panning out for them now. That's the region on day 3 of most severe activity. But you're right, after day 3, they don't have much of anything. But as we move through time here over the next day or two, you may very well see, as you just pointed out, some severe weather being noted out west.
The satellite loop, again, mentioning how this system is sort of tilted in an east-northeast, west-southwest fashion, and the rotation is back to the west in southern Ohio, or maybe into West Virginia. But again, look at the thunder. You're getting some thunderstorms blowing up offshore. This is yesterday's cold front that brought severe weather to the southeast. That front is well out to the east, and this sort of arcs back to the low that is out to the west. That low is going to redevelop, and gradually you're going to have a coastal low that's going to form out of this, and that's why it's going to take a while, I think, to see improving weather conditions. Meanwhile, we've got weather system moving into the Rockies and moving eastward, and another one coming into the Pacific Northwest behind that one. And with respect to rainfall, this is going to be a wet week for areas from eastern Pennsylvania on up into New England, all the way up into coastal Maine. And we're looking at 3 to 5 inches of rain. Now, bear in mind that includes whatever falls today, tomorrow, and also what falls Wednesday night, Thursday, and possibly even into Friday. And also, if you throw in a little bit of convective issues in there with some thunderstorms, you certainly could see how we could wind up getting every bit of 3 inches of rain over the next 5 or 6 days.
Yeah, I tell you, take a look at that 7 day, and we're in the red, so to speak. And yeah, we've got our hands full in terms of moisture. One word that will not, at least in the immediate future, crop up around here, Joe, is drought. We certainly are not going to see that,
No, not at all.
and especially considering, all things considered, we don't really have all that much snow melt to draw on for the spring season, and yet we're making it up big time in terms of just plain rainy
Yeah,
weather.
I don't think there's any dry issues, reservoir wise. For those of you who don't live in the Northeast, at least downstate for sure, snow cover plays a big role in filling up reservoirs. So when you wind up with a dry, snowless winter, which we did not have from the standpoint of it being dry, the reservoirs can take a hit. But I haven't seen anything with regards to having any kind of water issues. Here's the Weather Service's snow forecast map, and the big numbers that you see, the 12 up in the Adirondacks, the 14 up in New Hampshire, that's got to be Mount Washington in New Hampshire. I'm not sure what that is, the 12 up in, maybe that's up near Lake Placid somewhere. But other than, again, all of this is going to be elevation driven. But you do see the Weather Service indicating at least some coating to maybe as much as an inch in a couple of spots going down through the Catskills in southern New York, northeastern Pennsylvania. But again, this is going to have probably be maybe above 1,000 or 1,500 feet where you're going to wind up seeing all of that. And then a little bit of also coating to an inch in western Mass and on up into northwestern Connecticut. Again, elevation driven. Let's call it the real stuff is going to be way up in northern New England and in some of the higher mountains. And hopefully this is the last one.
I'm not sure. I got to tell you, the experimental 3 to 4 week probability for temperature and precipitation in the Northeast is suggesting that we will gradually, after about the 4th or 5th of May, we gradually will slowly ease out of the below normal temperature pattern and only get back to near normal. If you really want warm weather, it is apparently going to be confined through much of May over the Midwestern states and especially down over the deep South, where you mentioned at the top of the show, Joe, there are heat advisories that have already been posted for places like Alabama. So, I mean, if you want to get,
California,
but,
California,
but also California or
California.
not Alabama?
Not for Alabama, California.
Oh, well, uh, apparently in the month of May, the warm weather is going to be confined mostly across the deep south and nowhere near anywhere up here. So
Yeah.
you're not going to see very much in terms of any, apparently, if you believe the CPC, not very much in the way of significant warming through a good bulk of the upcoming month of May.
I'm looking at. I'm just looking at the high temperatures today across the U.S. I got that map up, and you're looking at 103 in Phoenix, 83 in L.A. But I'm not sure why. That must be LAX where they got the 83 because Los Angeles is one of those places that LAX could be could be 75 and Burbank will be 95. So once you just go far enough inland, 95 for Las Vegas, but you start to see the first hundreds showing up, and in the east today. 80s, mid to upper 80s across much of Florida, and even some low 80s up the Carolina coastline, which is pretty nice, and all along the Gulf Coast. And of course, you could see the soup in the Northeast with temperatures in the 40s and 50s for highs. That is your marine layer at work, folks. It's a wonderful thing, isn't it? To have to deal with that nonsense.
Lovely.
Yep, it sure
Lovely.
is.
I have a friend of mine who lives in Tucson, and I guess if Phoenix is 103, Tucson, I see 99 in Tucson today. I don't I don't really understand, and I don't care whether or not they say it's a dry heat or a lot of oppressive humidity. It's just plain hot.
Oh, it's
I
disgusting, is what it is. The
uh,
word you're looking for is disgusting.
yeah.
I'm just trying to find where is my.
I mean, 99. It's not even May yet.
Oh, I know it is gross. So I went back to SPC's. I've been trying to use these tools that they have, which I kind of like. Um, their weather models overlaid with the 2 meter temperatures today. and you see the surface and how it plays out rather nicely here on a larger scale. Let me just make it just a little bit smaller so we can get the whole flavor of the U.S. So your issue here in the East, of course, as you take a look at the uh, HREF model overlaid on all of this. So there's your low pressure. This is for coming up on noon, the way the model has forecasted it. So you've got, notice the stretched isobar there, that 1,000 isobar, I'm sorry, the 1,008 isobar. So you've got one low that is probably sitting somewhere in southeast Ohio or into West Virginia, and you're going to start to see pressure falls in Chesapeake Bay and over Delaware. That's where your second low is going to develop and take over. And of course, through all of this, up to the north, you're getting this onshore northeast wind. There's a high that is kind of off the map, but is sitting over James Bay, and that's funneling down cool Canadian air. Not cold Canadian air. Relative to the time of year, you might want to call it cold, but let's just call it cool or chilly air. And of course, as we go through the day, that low is going to gradually take over. It looks like there's a little bit of a problem here with the SPC's website, but you get the general idea. There's going to be one low that comes out of all of this, and this map, by the way, this current map here is for 5 o'clock this afternoon. That low is going to take another 24 hours to find its way over toward Cape Cod. So the case for weather conditions improving on Monday is a real tough one to swallow because of the fact that you're going to have this low and this persistent onshore flow, at least from, let's say, New Jersey and Pennsylvania, north and east. Anywhere tomorrow that you're going to be dealing with a northeast wind is going to be problematic. And by the way, take a look at the GFS, which I got up here. This is the 7-day rainfall through Friday evening. And you're seeing a large area across Pennsylvania, a little arm there that goes down into Virginia, but runs all the way up through New England. Very large area of 2 to 4, what I would describe as the model generating a 2 to 4 inch area of rain. Again, this is all cumulative, and a lot of this is going to wind up being driven by later Wednesday night into Thursday, with that system headed for the Great Lakes. So let's just go with what the models are doing for the rest of today and into tomorrow. First, let's get the upper air going here.
And I might point out also, Joe, that if you think it might be too cool today for a little convection, I do notice that on the latest FOOS run, the latest North American model run, that the lifted index, which is also a good signal for convection, anything below, let's say, 5 on the FOOS suggests that there may be some rumbles. We go from a 9 at initialization time, which is 8 o'clock this morning. By 2 o'clock this afternoon, we jump all the way to, or go down to -1 and stay at -1 through this evening. So that is suggestive that in spite of the fact that we have those cool, stable east-northeasterly winds, that the lifted index is trying to suggest that there may be some embedded thunder and lightning in whatever rain that we do see here, or whatever showers we do see here this
Aloft,
afternoon and early tonight.
yeah, aloft, it's a different story because you actually do have a fairly, let's call it a decent looking shortwave trough here that is swinging into the east, indicating a colder than normal atmosphere, at least aloft. And some, as you said, maybe the bottom part of the atmosphere is relatively stable. But you look at you go to the higher levels. We can bring up a sounding. Let's take a look at what the sounding tells us. Um, and in fact, if you taking a look at this is really kind of interesting. This is the New York City sounding for uh, 2 a.m. And you see the marine layer temperature, bottom layer temperature, Joe, is 47. The temperature, actually, there's an inversion that um, that you see the temperature rises a bit from, say, I don't know, 950 millibars to about 850, and then it starts to temperatures start to fall with height. and you have a relatively steep lapse rate, but there's this big dry area of dry air from about 750 millibars all the way up to 600 millibars. It's very, very dry. Um, look at the dew point. The green is the dew point. The temperature, how steep you do have a steep lapse rate going up from about 900 millibars, 950 millibars on. So the atmosphere is somewhat unstable here at higher levels anyway.
How many times have I in my life have I seen a sounding like this where the mid and upper layers are dry as a bone, and and down here where we are, we have a thick cloak of moisture that is completely hiding the sun and making for a very drab day. And you say to yourself, if there was some way you get a giant fan to just blow away that
Yeah.
moisture because it's so beautiful aloft.
Well, I
And
saw it in my walk because there were a few places to my north toward Long Island Sound where the sky kind of opened up a little bit. And, there was this big patch of blue sitting there, all surrounded by all these low clouds, the low gray clouds. And of course, when you've got a marine layer in the springtime, it wins out. And here we go for tonight into Monday, of course. The shortwave trough in the east really takes all day for this to move on through. Now we do have a bit of a northwest flow here on Tuesday, so unless there and a weakening disturbance that's dropping southeast from the Great Lakes. So as long as that behaves itself, I think we should be okay. And then as we move on to um, uh, Wednesday, you can already see here's the next trough that's already dropping in, and you also have this ridge that's building up in the western part of the United States, something that was sorely absent, of course, throughout the entire winter. Look at how that upper low just drives southeastward. You've got a fairly wrapped up upper low, Joe. 4 contours cut off near Chicago Wednesday night. So this is going to probably have some kind of surface low nearby or underneath it, and you're going to wind up with a low that's going to run up toward the Great Lakes and a strong southerly flow both at the surface and aloft ahead of it. So I think this sets us up for the possibility of some heavier rains later Wednesday night and Thursday. And that upper low, by the way, by Thursday afternoon is still back in northwest Ohio, and it really doesn't reach the coastline. It's right over New York City Friday afternoon. So improvement is going to be very, very slow to occur. And as I said, you may have to wait till the weekend. Now, at least as we get into Saturday, there's a bit of a ridge here in the east. So hooray, hooray. We might squeeze out a decent Saturday. We'll see if it lasts into Sunday or not. But the upper air pattern does look a bit more relaxed and maybe a bit milder as we get into next weekend.
one would hope that it would be nice for next weekend. It is, after all, next weekend, the first weekend of the merry month of May. And I will be a week from tomorrow, as per the case over the last 18 years I've been up here in Putnam Valley. I will be hanging the hummingbird feeders for the first time this season.
Oh, very good. A
And I've
mark
always
of
been, and I've always been a little concerned about the fact that it's been so not so much damp, but also been unseasonably cool. But as you pointed out in an earlier show, the hummingbirds, with their metabolism and their fact that they they can handle, I think, the unseasonably chilly weather. They find a way to do that, and I always say to myself, spring is really here when I hang those feeders up, um, and that will be the case a week from tomorrow.
So here's our NAM model today. This is the should be the 12Z. Yes, it's the 12Z. So there's your low off the New Jersey coast late this afternoon and this evening. Just kind of sits near Cape Cod overnight and during the day tomorrow. A little bit of snow being indicated in parts of upstate New York and in northern New England. Going to take a little while for this to all get out of the way. There's still some rain or showers here that move southeastward during the late in the day tomorrow into tomorrow evening across the Hudson Valley to New York City and Long Island. So again, Tuesday will be the day of improvement, I think. There's a little rain here Tuesday morning in western Pennsylvania, northeast Ohio. That moves southeast and falls apart as the day goes on. So that's where my only concern is that there might be some clouds with that, but let's hope not. And then here's our storm for Wednesday. You can see the low just kind of gets wrapped up there. By Wednesday evening, you've got a low in eastern Michigan, a strong cold front that's going to run from there southward down into the Gulf states. I think you're going to see an area of showers and thunderstorms breaking out ahead of it. Perhaps SPC will indicate an area of risk for severe weather from say Georgia into western Pennsylvania for later Wednesday into Wednesday night. That's their job. We'll let them do their job and see what they say tomorrow when it comes into their day 3 time frame. And the new GFS is starting out now because, of course, we're on daylight, that abomination that we know is daylight saving time.
Right.
So here's how the GFS sees it. Same idea here in the east, that kind of stretched out northeast southwest tilt to things, although the GFS was far more aggressive with rain on its radar view. I've noticed lately the GFS has been overdoing rain on what it sees as its radar view because for this morning it had rain everywhere from northeast Virginia to southern New England, and clearly that's not happening. And then you've got your low that translates to the coast. But again, staying very dreary here for sure. Regardless of how much rain we get out of this, it's really going to be more about the low clouds and the marine layer. And of course, now we move into Tuesday. For Monday, you've got a cold front and the next weather system, I'm sorry, a weak system moving into the western lakes. This is the system that falls apart. Again, the GFS much more robust with this, but it's been erring on the side of being too robust. And now here's your low for Wednesday night, Thursday into the Great Lakes, the trailing cold front. And here again, the GFS is fairly bullish. The NAM is bullish. The GFS looks like it's a little bit more robust. It's got a stronger low in northern Michigan because it has a well-developed upper air, and you've got your trailing cold front showers and storms ahead of it. So Wednesday night into Thursday, and it looks like you're gonna have precip lingering at least at the part of Friday until finally it improves on Saturday. The one nice thing, Joe, is that at least once we get rid of this marine layer, if we get rid of this northeast wind and go to any kind of other wind direction other than northeast or east or southeast, you're going to see temperatures reflexively bounce back into the 60s fairly quickly.
Right. In fact, yesterday, Joe, I was wearing a rather heavy shirt. It's not necessarily a sweatshirt, but it was a heavy shirt while I was doing when I was doing some work outdoors. And my future daughter-in-law arrived, looked at me, and she said, "Are you actually comfortable like that?" I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, it's so mild out there." Well, I hadn't gotten started yet, but within 5 minutes, even though temperatures were only, he said, in the low 60s, I got rid of that shirt because it was getting rather warm, and so we're so accustomed to these temperatures in the 40s and low 50s, this drab, ugly, chilly, raw weather that just get the temperatures back to near normal, not even above normal, but near normal, and things will be a lot. It'll feel a lot nicer out there, and that'll be the story I think for Tuesday. Even though on Tuesday though, it doesn't look like temperatures are going to get much above the upper 50s to near 60, but still a
Yeah.
heck of a lot better than what's going on out there
Oh, I
right now.
agree. I agree. All right, so we're back up full screen, and we should report that the chairman, Scott Briller, is almost back to being 100% after his bout with something not COVID. Thank God.
Thank
So
God.
that's worked its way through. So here's your question for your Briller Jeopardy question for the day, Joe. Is this weather event has not happened so far this April for New York City. And if it doesn't happen by the end of the month, it will be the first time since 1940 that this will have occurred.
This weather event. Okay. How
Well, okay, maybe that's not the best way to describe it. Um, but think of all the things that we measure in terms of weather.
well
Okay.
how about this? I'll take a stab at it right now. It'll be the first time since 1940 in the month of April that we have not seen the temperature at Central Park get to or below 32 degrees.
Okay. That's not the correct answer, but you're kind of on the right track.
Okay.
So just flip that around.
Flip that around.
Okay, you said low temperature, so flip that around.
The high temperature is
Yes.
and below 32
No, no,
degrees.
no. The high temperature, but not the numbers wrong. Change the number.
Uh, the first time since the high temperature has not gotten. Well, we've been above 60 already. At the first April that we've never seen a high temperature above 70.
That's since 1940.
Really?
Yeah. That's that actually, it kind of makes sense because we usually see at least a few days where temperatures go up above 70 in the month of April, but this will be the first time since 1940.
That's
And you know
amazing.
what? Looking ahead to everything that's happening this week weather-wise, it's hard to imagine. You know, I'm looking at the overall pattern and the way things are going on. I, it's hard to see which that there's any day this week that 70 is doable in New York City.
I don't. Well, I mean, the month will officially come to an end when on Friday or
Well,
well,
Thursday midnight,
today's the
going
20,
into Friday.
20 no,
Today's the
today's
26th. You got 4 days left.
right. Okay, so it ain't going to 70. There's no way it was going to go to 70.
No, it's not.
That's
You
an
know
amazing
that
statistic,
it
though.
really is when you think about it.
I'd
Um,
like to know where Mr. Briller got that. I I know that on the Central Park records that they post online, you could see the highs and the lows and the lowest highs and the highest lows and everything like that. But I'd like to know, you know, how do you go all the way back every single year to check that
well,
out?
there's a on the climate page. There's like a database. You could pull up any combination of all sorts of things. It's a lot easier now.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah.
link in there somewhere.
Are you
So
ready for your?
so let's since we're on full screen, let me share with you an amazing and astounding development in my life.
Okay,
Okay, I have achieved a you know how should I don't know what the right phrase for this is, but you let's just say that I have made it in the internet world. Okay, do you know why I am saying that I have made it in the internet world?
why?
In a way that I'm thinking you haven't made it yet, and probably a lot of my colleagues haven't made it yet. I don't want to assume, but I'm guessing that this has happened to me, but it's not yet happened to you. This is the grand achievement that I had. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
On Friday, I received. Uh, oh, this is astounding. I received an email blackmailing me.
Blackmailing you?
Yes, and this is
Okay.
this is most exciting, Joe. Uh, it turns out that this
I hope it's
person.
not the same kind of blackmail that David Letterman had all those years ago.
No, 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 no.
Remember that?
It was better. So this black, I was being blackmailed. I got an email that stated that they had video of me uh, of watching pornography and doing whatever you would do as the result of watching pornography. Let's put it like that.
Okay.
So I was to pay the equivalent of, I think it was 1 Bitcoin, which is like 7,000 right now. I think last trade on Bitcoin was 6,000 something, whatever it is. But I was
Okay.
to give them, if I gave them 1 Bitcoin, they would not release my. They also said that they had my entire email list and that they weren't going to release my video publicly. And if I didn't believe them, that I was to send them the word proof, and that they would send out that email with the video to a few of my people, friends, just to know that they were serious. Okay.
Right.
So of course you know me, Joe. I responded to them by saying, "Go ahead and release it. If you're only asking for one Bitcoin, I'm already getting 3 Bitcoins from people that are looking at my video online around the world. So, seriously, do they think that people are that stupid that I'm
Believe it or
gonna,
not,
for Christ's
believe it or
sake?
not, some of them are. You know,
Yeah, it just it was just hilarious. I just you look at this stuff, and someone actually takes the time to write an email that is so grammatically incorrect. Knock yourself out. Go ahead and release whatever it is you got to release. I could care less. Really.
Well, you're
Not
right.
that there's any video out there that is, remotely reflecting what was in the email, but I just got such a kick out of getting an email blackmailing me on pornography.
Yeah. Well, I
You
would
know
too.
what, Jeffrey? Maybe you're right. Jeffrey Maris says it's Diego because we blocked Diego. He's been doing some weird things from time to time. Maybe that's who it is. You know what? Seriously, people need to just kind of grow up and move on with life than to waste their time doing stuff like that.
All right. Two things I need to do here. The first thing is my Briller Jeopardy to you,
Yes.
which is non-meteorological. This is one for Mr. Cioffi on Sunday morning. What are the only three animated films that were nominated for Best Picture? The animated
Three
films.
animated films nominated for Best Picture.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to say, I'm thinking very hard right now. I'm thinking out of the box. Beauty and the Beast.
Okay, that's one.
I'm going to say there's two others on my mind right now. I want to say either Snow White or Bambi. So I'm going to say Snow White. No, not, and it wasn't Bambi, I guess, either. All right, hold on. But I got Beauty and the Beast. I got.
Right.
I guess it's got to be some of the ones that were, after 1990.
You're correct
Um,
in that regard. Yes.
so,
I'll give you a hint.
oh,
One.
I mean, I don't know. I don't remember if then they went from 5 movies being nominated to 10 movies, or 12 or whatever it is now. So, uh,
But I will
was
give
the
you.
Lion King
I'll
one
give
of
you a hint
them?
for one of them.
Was the
I'll give
Lion
you a hint
King
for one
one?
of them. What did you say?
Was the Lion King one of them?
No.
No? Okay, go ahead. Give me a hint.
One of the remaining two was a sequel.
Oh, good God. What's the one with the fish?
Oh, Nemo?
Yeah, Finding Nemo?
No.
No, that's the sequel. So one of them was a sequel?
Yes.
Was it Toy Story?
It was Toy
Toy
Story.
Story 2 or
No,
3?
it was three.
Toy Story 3. Okay. Now what's the other picture?
Up.
Oh, Up. I loved Up. That was a have you seen Up?
No, I have not.
Oh, Joe, that Up is the kind of animation I think you would really enjoy it. There's a very, very loving story behind it.
Okay.
The theme. So I highly recommend Up. I loved it. I thought it was great. I only saw it the one time. I didn't see it. I haven't seen it again. But if I had to see something again, I would highly, highly recommend Up. By the way, have you seen the new MeTV promos for? And I think they're kind of
I,
clever. The MeTV promos for Fred and Fred.
right.
Oh, you have seen that?
I've seen that.
Yeah.
I've seen the ones where they've had Carol Burnett being questioned by Perry Mason.
Right, right. Well, yeah,
And,
that's been gone for a while. The new
and
one with Fred and Fred is, Fred Flintstone and Fred Mertz,
Fred Mertz.
and they cut back to scenes back and forth of people saying, the cartoon character saying "Oh Fred," and then Lucy,
Right.
"Oh Fred." So I thought that was pretty clever.
And I think the another very clever one was the Twilight Zone, where they have Eddie Albert actually saying in one of the episodes of Green Acres, it almost feels like we're in the Twilight Zone.
Yes, they also have a Twilight Zone one, not a Twilight Zone one, but a Green Acres one with Mr. Haney, and he's pulling, basically looks like he's pulling down a window shade on the side of the truck, and they've got, some kind of storyboard on it and promoting Hogan's Heroes,
Right.
the show Hogan's Heroes
You got
on it.
you got to hand it to the people who run MeTV. The commercials are just as, if not even more
Oh,
entertaining
they're
than
extremely
the actual
clever.
shows.
They're
Yeah.
extremely clever.
And I think
And
the best
well
one,
done.
my favorite one, and I've mentioned this before, but my favorite is the one where the Rubbles are trying to adopt Bam Bam, and
Right, with
and
Perry Masonry.
right, and their attorney says, "Oh no, we've lost the case. Why? They've got Perry Mason there."
Yes.
And instead of showing you the cartoon version of Perry Mason, they show Perry Mason from one of the episodes of Back in the Day.
Exactly. Did
And what makes it truly funny is in the font, the classic Perry Mason font that you see at the beginning and the end of each show, whatever. Here it is, Perry Masonary.
yes.
I love it.
I
One
watched
thing
a
I must say, this is a bulletin from Mrs. Rayo, and she's been
folks
watching
are asking
the show.
about the satellites.
Right,
What's
and
what's going on with the satellites?
you may have heard that back on Wednesday, Elon Musk, in his never-ending attempt to cover the globe with literally thousands of satellites that are eventually going to give worldwide internet coverage,
Right.
he sent up in the series. It's called Starlink. In one single rocket launch, he has sent up 60 satellites. And in the sky, when you see these things pass by, it is like a train of bright stars that are moving across the sky. And come Tuesday night, this is why I'm hoping that we have clear weather for Tuesday night, and I'll mention it again tomorrow night, at approximately 8:40 in the evening, if you go outside, look up toward the western sky, you'll see Venus, which you can't miss. Venus is absolutely the brightest object in the sky, and the crescent moon, which will be far off to the left of Venus. In between those two, you're going to see at 8:40 a train of stars, which are going to be in perfect alignment with each other, maybe not exactly spaced, but that will be, we're not going to get all 60, but we're going to get 39 satellites moving across the sky here in the tri-state area.
I'm sorry,
And
Joe. When is this?
8:40
On what day?
Tuesday,
Tuesday, 8:40.
right?
Hmm.
We have 39 satellites, and if you're wondering what happened to the other 21, they're in line too. But with time, now remember I said the launch was on Wednesday. There are two batches of satellites. The first batch with 39 will pass on by at 8:40, and I think about 20 minutes later you'll get the second batch. But that batch will be dimmer and lower in the sky. But to see that first batch come by, I've not seen any of this in all the launches that they've had already. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this looks like in the sky.
Well,
39 satellites for the price of one.
Elon Musk. I mean, if you can say, if you can mean it as a compliment to say that he's completely out of his mind, and in a good way. That's kind of how I would describe
Well,
Elon Musk. He's got this way of seeing things, and he's really a visionary.
he's
Uh,
got he's gotten to be he is coming under sharp criticism from astronomers and scientists because the astronomers take these long exposure photographs here on Earth of star clusters and galaxies and nebulae and whatever. And the problem now is that these satellites are coming on by and ruining the pictures by trailing these long streaks across these photographs. He has only gotten a few hundred of these satellites up there. He is trying to get 12,000 of them. And many astronomers are fearing that he's going to ruin the nighttime sky with this. Now, he's now saying that he's going to paint some of these satellites, most of these satellites, a darker shade so they don't reflect as much light. But you get an exciting view of these satellites moving on by.
it's going to be
But
almost like the kick line from the Flintstones.
right.
Da 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 da. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, that's Tuesday night. We'll talk more about it. In fact, maybe what I'll do is there's a lot of these on YouTube. I'll send you what I think is the best YouTube to you, and maybe we could play that on the show tomorrow night just to show people what to expect or what to look for.
Okay, no, that's a good idea. Send it to me, and we'll get everything. We'll put it up on the screen. Izzy
Right.
D, thanks for hitting super chat today. But no, I'm not running. I'm not doing a fitness channel. I just go out and walk. It's very mind clearing and a very relaxing thing to do. So if you have no other way to exercise, I think the best thing to do is just to go out in a nice brisk walk. By the way, speaking of just going back to Perry Mason for a moment, I was
Right.
watching an episode. I think it aired. I'm gonna say Friday night. I think it was the Friday night or Friday morning episode. Maybe it was. Um, the the premise was a radio station a host of a talk show, of a radio talk show.
Was that the
Who?
one with the telephone where they called?
Yes,
Yeah, I
yeah.
saw about that.
Well,
Yeah.
did you happen to notice who was in that and who the killer wound up being?
I only got to see a few minutes of it toward the end, so I did not.
Well, one of the things I love about watching these old shows is, especially a show like Perry Mason, and you pointed out, you get to see all these we get to see all these wonderful character actors that we've recognized from there and from other shows. But you also get to see some actors that are, uh, became famous afterwards.
Right.
For example, I saw one late last week that had Ellen Burstyn on as a character. She wasn't charged with the crime. Her husband was, but
Right.
so you get to see that. There was one episode back a week or two ago. Burt Reynolds was on there early on in his career. Well, on this particular episode was Daniel J. Travanti. Now, if you don't remember who Daniel J. Travanti is, he was the police chief in Hill Street Blues,
Right.
which was a big, a very popular and critically acclaimed drama that ran, police drama that ran in the 1980s. So he wound up actually being the killer. The funny thing was his last name was spelled Travanti with a Y, as opposed to Travanti with an I. And I just, I listen back back in the day, you had, they didn't always have. It was difficult to get a job if your name had a certain ethnicity to it. The way television works. That's just the way it was. So maybe he had originally changed his name from an I to a Y so that he would avoid being typecast in Italian type roles. I don't know, just a guess on my part, but it's very interesting to see that.
But that happens every once in a while. Remember in I Love Lucy, there were a number of episodes where it was the Desi Arnaz Orchestra, Desi Dezi,
Was it with the Z?
with a Z. There's actually a few episodes that have Dezi, the Desi Arnaz Orchestra.
Really?
Yeah.
And yet, in the show itself, they went out
Yeah.
of their way when they had. There were a few
Supposedly.
episodes that involved Italians. They used native speakers, and
Uh,
I listen. I'm a native speaker, so I can tell. I can tell when someone is speaking Italian that's actually from Italy, as opposed to someone speaking Italian who might have learned it here in school and is several generations apart from it. But they went out of their way to use a lot of native speakers in the roles that they had, including the vineyard episode. Uh, uh, she was a native speaker. A lot of the characters when they were in Europe, that the part of the series when they were in Europe, those folks were all native speakers. But it was kind of interesting to see Daniel J. Travanti there doing his thing.
there's some actors who are very good at dialects. One of
Oh
them
yeah,
One of them who is excellent at that is the actor who plays Max Klinger on MASH, Jamie Farr.
Jamie Farr.
He's excellent with dialects. He was always asked to appear on television in various roles, doing various dialects. I'm trying to remember. There was one actor. He was actually more of a comedian, and he did impressions. He was a heavy-set African American comedian back in the 70s, and his name just popped out of my head. But he was also excellent in doing dialects. He could do all kinds of voices, Irish and Cockney and whatever. And I just can't remember his name. He passed away actually in the 70s, and probably the reason why he was so heavy set. But anyway, it'll come to me, and
By the
Uh,
way, what the chat board question? They're playing a separate Jeopardy today. You know the answer to this because you brought this up a couple of times, and I have forgotten. What movie is playing on the opening credits of the Flintstones?
oh, the monster.
The monster. I knew it was I knew it was a horror
Tonight,
movie.
tonight
Um,
only.
what's
it's been
that?
it's been playing for 60 years, but it's tonight only. The
All
monster.
right, it's tonight only for 60 years. Got it.
Right.
All right, so look, let's
Believe
wrap
it or
it.
not, I actually used that when I in my radio days. I was doing a radio station up in Rochester, New York, WHAM, and they used to do trivia, and I gave that to the afternoon drive host. He said, "Hey, that's a great trivia question." This was back in the 80s, maybe even late 70s, before you could type it up on and look it up on Google or Wikipedia or YouTube. And it took them the better part of an hour before somebody finally got the answer. And that person, whoever it is, won a free ski weekend courtesy of that question. So,
Oh, nice. Well, let's call it a day, shall we? Coming up on 12 noon. It's a Sunday. Still plenty of daytime left to do whatever it is you got to do, weather permitting, of course. I can't see whether it's raining here or not, but the wind is blowing, uh, moving the branches around from the northeast. So that means if I go outside, it's going to mean I got to wear a jacket. I'm not happy. All right, so everybody have a great day. Mike Talley asking if we're having severe weather Wednesday. No, not during the day. Let's see, maybe Wednesday night when that front comes through, that we wind up getting some showers and storms. So we'll take a look at that closer tomorrow. I'm trying to think if there's a. Oh, I do want to mention, by the way, just as a this is early. I'll bring it up again as I only found out about this yesterday. But I'm sorry, Tuesday, May 12th. Is it a Tuesday? Well, May 12th is the day. I think it's a Tuesday. I'm going to be doing a virtual library talk for the Westwood Library in Westwood, New Jersey. Okay. That's going to be on May 12th, and I think it's going to be at 7 o'clock Eastern time. So when we get closer, I still have to figure out how I'm going to pull this off, how I'm going to do this. But I'll bring it up again from time to time over the next week to remind everybody. So this will be one where everybody can get to watch it from online.
that'll be
Uh,
fun.
so that will be fun. So we will. So we'll get details on that as we get closer. All right, folks. So everybody have a great Sunday, and we'll see you tomorrow. We'll be back at our regular weekday time at 7 o'clock Eastern. Good afternoon, everybody.
Au reservoir.